So
So
let me ask you another question. Especially in times when, vampires are overt or you get really attuned to spotting the vampire in real time, like what do you do
right,
when that
in
happens?
real time.
I had a very, very pointed, I won't name who, but very pointed example of this in the last month. And I was like, I don't know if I played it right. I felt like I played it right because I was like in a great mood. I had just come from the gym. I was pretty chipper and I saw it immediately and I'm familiar with this person. And it was like a extreme case even for them. And I was like live narrating it. I was like, you're
Yeah,
being a lunatic. I don't know what you're saying. This is insanity the way you're behaving right now. And I was like calling it out just like that.
yeah,
Not
in your
that,
head.
no, out loud.
Oh, out loud. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. I
That's
know.
another strategy.
It wasn't even intentional. It was just like I have I'm obviously close to this person. I can say
Yeah,
those things.
yeah.
So it was not intentional to I was not trying to solve anything. I just like felt so
Right, right,
compelled to call it
right.
out in the
Oh,
moment. Yeah.
right. So, okay. So there's a bunch of things that come into this. The first thing is it's an old Al-Anon thing. You didn't cause it, you can't cure it, you can't didn't cause, you can't cure it, you can't doesn't matter. Apparently, I don't remember. When someone is in that state, the all you can actually do for yourself is don't feed them, right? Be
Mm,
aware that they're trying to get food from you. They're trying to get energy from you. So the gig is to not feed them. And so if you can drop into disconnect, into just grounded, here's myself, you're being a lunatic. You can say it or don't say it. It doesn't make any difference. They can't hear you, right? They are not in the same room as you are. They're feeding. You are the food. So you can't say anything that will change it. You can't snap them out of it. You can't yell them out of it. You can't plead them out of it. They're not
hmm
coming out of it except when they do. The closest thing that you can do is you can stop feeding them. So if you can genuinely stop feeding them, they will either find someone else in the room or they will go somewhere else to get fed or sometimes they will respond by stop feeding. They will flip into, depending on what kind of, like, how chronic this is. They they might flip in to match your energy because energy
hmm
matches energy. So sometimes if you're met with a vampire and you give them grounded energy and they don't get anything else, sometimes they will flip to grounded energy and match your energy
hmm
versus you run into a vampire, your automatic response is vampire because that's matching energy.
hmm
So the gig is to the ideal is to go get into grounded and detach, right? I'm detached from whatever is going on over there for you. I can see you. I can see that you're doing what you're doing, but it's not, I'm not, I haven't built a shield. I haven't built it because that takes energy so they can feel that. So that's still feeding because there's still energy available. I just am completely detached from what's happening with you.
But that doesn't mean you stop talking per se
No,
necessarily. Right.
talk, don't talk. See, the thing is, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Talk, don't talk. They can't hear you. They're after trying to trigger you. So if that is unavailable, if you really are just detached from whatever is going on with this person, they're not getting what they're looking for. So they will either find someone else, like leave, find someone else to get it from, or switch energies.
Are they necessary when you say they're trying to trigger you? Are they necessarily trying to, is it personal or are they just trying to,
No,
sometimes it can be personal though, I think, right?
no, it's not personal. It appears personal, but it's only personal in that they have found that when they stab you personally, they get what they want.
So I'm thinking of two examples. One is a work example. Another one is like a someone trying to engage me in politics example. The
Okay.
first the first one with work, it seemed very personal to me because I had run-ins with this person many times. And the second one, when I think like when people are trying to engage me in political conversation and they're fired up about something, it's just they're
Yeah.
looking for some place to place that discomfort or that like disagreement or their passionate
Yeah.
borderline
They want to
rage
get into
position.
it.
Right.
They want to get into it. They want to get down and dirty and into it.
Both instances, in my view, work guy trying to get my energy, political guy trying to get my energy, different different intention or the work one seems very personal to me. The other person seems like they're just outraged about politics and they want to unleash on they need to get it out of them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like both are energy vampires, absolutely. Both are like equally uncomfortable to be around. But for
Yeah.
me, way easier to stay grounded in a political thing versus like the
Yeah.
work thing. Right. And so
So,
the example I mentioned in the last 30 days was the politics thing. They were
right.
going
Right.
wild on
Right.
politics. And I was like,
Yeah.
whoa,
I
like I
can't,
don't know
I'm
what to
not.
do here. Yeah.
Yeah. The work one feels personal because they may come directly to you to attack where they don't attack your coworkers. That will be because you fed them and your
Yeah.
coworkers have not. So it feels personal, but it's only personal in as much as they've been able to trigger you before,
Yes. That is 100%
right?
accurate.
So if you can get to a place where you go, okay, I am, and this is it's hard to do because if they've triggered you, it's because you have a trigger, right? We've talked about this before, where if it's not something that has any relevance in your life, it's not they're not going to be able to trigger you because you're just like, I don't know, like the politics one. It's like, I don't know, I
Right.
don't care. Why are you yelling at me about this? This is weird,
Right.
right?
Literally yelling
But
at me. Yeah.
yeah, but this other person is saying something that maybe you do have a bit of insecurity or what you have pieces of yourself involved in that. If you can get to a place where not where you go, I'm not going to listen to you, nah, 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 right? You can't just build a wall. It's better than not building a wall. It's a good first step, but it will still feed them. If instead you can get to a place where you go, I see you're trying to trigger me, and I guess in the past you probably have been able to. I'm not feeling it today.
Yeah.
Like, if you could detach, they will, first, they will ramp up warning label, especially when you look at family and stuff and you try and do this stuff with people in your family that are trying to trigger you. They're going to ramp up first, likely. He's going to double down his efforts. You're not responding in the way you normally do. When I say this, it usually bugs you. And this is not conscious in their brains, right? This is just them being human. But so I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna say twice as many things, or I'm gonna do something that I really think will kick it in. And you have to be careful because it probably will.
Yeah.
It There's a good chance. But if you can get over that hurdle and still not feed them, eventually they're gonna go, there's no food here. And they're
Intuitively.
gonna yeah. Well, literally though, too, because they're not getting a response. They're not getting what they're after. The interchange is not happening,
Yeah.
right? So if we say that I can read your emotions, we also exchange that stuff.
Yeah.
We literally do, right? That's why when you and I talk, it feels uplifting because we're actually mixing energies together and making more energy.
Yeah, the work I told you about this in the past, but as a reminder, the work situation that I'm thinking about,
Hmm.
it was somebody I had run-ins with a lot. I definitely fed them in the past. It was my rabbit hole. They kept poking me intentionally
Yeah,
around that. And this was like the culmination of it all. It was kind of the peak of it. This person basically rounded up an email with like 10 other people on it and called me out via email in front of everyone when they didn't need to be on the email at all. It was
right.
purely just
Yeah,
to kick me while I'm down or put me down. And like to the point where I was like, holy crap, like you're a grown person and you did that. Like this is silly to me. But what I did is I actually, for whatever reason, there was reasons that I couldn't deal with it at that point. But what I did via emails, I responded and was like, you know what, you're right. Like basically it was like a very short answer, like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry I missed this. Like, let's catch up next call on it. But thanks for calling it out, basically.
right, right.
And I didn't realize till 6 months after the fact that that was the last time he did anything to me, right?
Da 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 da.
I remember telling you that at the time, but it wasn't. I didn't realize at the moment. I didn't realize a month later. It was like I very vividly remember I was at the dog park with Jen, and I was like, we got on this topic, and I was like, wait a minute, I haven't heard from so and so in so long, ever since that thing, and
Right.
yeah,
Nice.
and I think it was, I've got to think that it was because of that. He was
Yeah,
trying
that's not what
to,
he was looking for.
yeah, he was trying to drop the atomic bomb of energy onto me or steal an atomic amount of energy from me, and I didn't respond nearly the way he hoped, and yeah, he left me alone after that and then quit the
Yeah.
company shortly after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you watch if you look at workplace is a great place to do it. You can see it in families too, but there'll be that guy at work that nobody bugs.
Mm.
And it's like, why don't you ever yell at him? Why don't you ever, that'll be the person that moves through the world without getting triggered by or doesn't feed vampires, right? That'll be the person that is the least likely to feed. So therefore, people don't go knocking on the door. And so when you get good at this, people will leave your life.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose people. All the people that are toxic, all the people that are only in your life because you feed them will leave
Yeah.
unless they can find, oh, and that's the other piece. They will leave, but if they figure this stuff out, if they start to get grounded and start to get authentic and start to clear out vampires or not encourage them, they're gonna know. They're gonna because they know, right? They're gonna come back because they actually know that you are an authentic person. You are a collaborative person.
Hmm.
They've left because you're not feeding them. But when they go, I don't want to be around people that are where we're competing for energy. I want to be around people that collaborate. They're going to go, I know this guy. I can go talk to him. And if I come in collaboratively, they will intuitively know. They will instinctively know that you're going to be someone they want
Yeah.
to reach back out to.
Yeah, it's related and kind of backtracking a little bit. It's almost as if like the person who's trying to unload, like the political person, for example, who's just trying to
Yeah.
unload and like get rid of that ugly energy that's currently sitting inside them. It's almost
Yeah.
as if you don't absorb it, so it goes back to them.
Yes. Yes. It's
And
very uncomfortable.
right, and so but when you do absorb it, they get the relief and then know that you are a person that will absorb that for future reference. So,
So they're
to
going to come
double.
back.
Exactly. So it's
So
kind of
so there's an exchange, right? They've given you all their crap and you've given them all your good.
yes.
And you
Yeah.
walk away going, I feel like crap. And they walk away going, I feel pretty good.
Yeah, it's like dumping your trash off at the landfill or something. It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
like that's out of my life. Thanks. I'm gonna definitely come back to this landfill again. I told you about this
Yeah,
example
it's just,
too a while ago, but when I rarely I rarely like will fly off the handle with people, but I remember flying off the handle with one person several years ago. It was like basically I was trying to park my car in the morning downtown and the credit card machine or something wasn't working, and so he tried to make me pay cash, and I was like, I don't have cash. I only have credit card. I was like, do you mind if I pay later once the credit card like on my way back
yeah,
when the machine's working? And he basically flew off the handle, like freaked out and like started yelling at me right away. And I hate responding in those situations, but instinctively I flipped back on him and lost
right.
it and started yelling at him too. And then after, I remember telling you this, but after I was like, why did I do that? Like I hate like it's a
Yeah.
bad feeling to like
Yeah,
lose
it's a
lose
bad
your sh
feeling to walk away with. Yeah.
right. But the alternative I realized was that if I didn't, then I would have just accepted and absorbed all his shitty energy and then had to leave and walk around my day with all this shitty energy of his that I absorbed. And so I felt
Yeah.
like intuitively in the moment, it was like, no, 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 I'm not taking that from you. You can have it all back. And I felt like after like an hour, I felt like it was actually the right move. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a time
Well,
and
you
place
got
for that.
ambushed, right? He got in
Right.
before you realized that he would because it was a surprise.
Right.
So yeah, you
Uh,
can definitely get ambushed. And
yeah.
there are cases like I was thinking about that as you're talking, there are cases where like sometimes you do use a vampire, but you do it intentionally,
Yes.
right? There
Yes.
are cases where where you need this vampire to move the hell out of the way. And
Yeah.
the only way you can't collaborate with them, you can't communicate with them. The only way you could do it is to be a bigger, scarier vampire.
Yeah. I definitely
Then
have
they will
changed
move.
my tune on that over the years because like I used to feel like, oh, staying there's never any reason to get amped up. If you show any sort of anger, you lose, and you're the weaker person because you've let them get under your skin. But I actually don't think that anymore. I think there's like time and place for everything, like very selectively, obviously, on the fly off the handle angle.
And
But
consciously,
yeah, so
right? It's the unconscious, it's the knee-jerk reaction that leaves you feeling crappy.
yes,
You also reminded me of another, there's a trauma bonding. You
mm,
know the term trauma bonding,
yeah,
and I could be using it wrong. Because there are people whose entire relationship, in the same way that there are
mm,
people whose entire relationship is based on collaboration,
right,
there are
right, I
people
see,
whose entire relationship is based on being vampires together.
right,
And so it goes out to the world, but they get in with each other and get each other fired up about there still has to be some outside source. You can't fire up vampire and vampire and have that feed because you're both trying to take the same energy,
Right.
but you can, I can sit with my friends and watch Real Housewives,
Right.
right? And so that political thing, that sounds like if I can potentially, if I can get you to agree with me, we can get down and dirty, the
Yeah.
pair of us, and we can just, hate on the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yep. And I was thinking politics as an example, or it's like, you buddy up with people at work and just you're you go for lunch and gossip
Oh
about the
my gosh.
latest. Like that's
No
the
kidding.
foundation of the relationship. Yeah.
Here's another stupid thing that person did. Here's another
Yeah.
stupid thing that person did. And that's all that you bring to the table is the stupid things,
Yeah.
the annoying things.
Yep.
I ran into it on just I was just down island a bit and homeless people.
Hmm.
Man, people want to hate on homeless people.
Oh, I see.
Well, they got, tough love, you got to do this, and it was just like, oh my God, have we solved the problem? Does anybody know the answer? I don't think anybody knows the answer.
Yeah.
You're not even having a conversation. You're just feeding
Yep.
off the superiority you have over those people.
Yeah. Yeah. That somebody said that to me over the Christmas break. Their friend was venting to them about the homeless problem in their town, they're in their city.
Yeah.
And yeah, my comment was like the fact that it's been such a persistent problem for so long, by almost by
Yeah.
definition, means that it's super nuanced and complex. And like the fact that you're offering a super simple solution means
That
that you're not
nobody thought
recognizing.
of.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like obviously that's not the solution. So I wasn't there in the conversation. It could have easily been he just wanted to rage, get a relief on that. Who knows
Yeah.
how like firmly he believed those things. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't thought about it, but I even wonder if that entrenchment is probably still a vampire. How even no matter how strongly he believes it, just means it's a more entrenched vampire
Right, right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
because there is independent truth.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so to recap on like what's the quick recap on how to
Right. Okay. So
deal
we
with
actually
a
again we jumped
vampire?
deep really fast. It isn't it isn't just a matter of turning a switch and suddenly you don't bother me anymore. So there's stages of it. So the first stage is to recognize that you're in the presence of a vampire. The second stage would be to recognize that you're feeding that vampire if you can. And then the task is to try and turn off the tap. And so sometimes like building a shield and going, I'm not gonna bite, I'm not gonna listen to you. Like if you think of them as talking like a drunk 2-year-old, it's a combination. But
Hmm.
if you're talking to a drunk person, you're not listening to the words that they're saying because
Hmm.
those words are nonsensical. You're just trying to get them to move from square A to square B. If you're looking at a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum, again, you're not listening to what they're, I mean, it's probably about something that isn't safe or that, you're not listening to the words and trying to find, you're not saying, listen, little 2-year-old,
Right.
use your common sense. You know the stove is hot. No, you're just saying no. Right.
Yeah.
So in both those cases, you're not listening to the words. So that's a helpful image to have to go, okay, if I'm in the presence of a vampire, first thing to do is recognize. Second thing to do is try and turn off the tap. First step of turning off the tap is to stop listening to the words they're saying. Stop listening because they're all those words are designed to cause you to be triggered. That's it.
Hmm.
You can't, there's no point in discussing, debating, cajoling, none of that. Not right now. So stop listening to the words. If you can do nothing else, put up a shield around that and just sort of go, okay, I'm not listening to any words you say. It's not perfect. They'll still feel it, but it's better than listening. Because if you're listening, if you're letting all those words go in, you're getting like hit with all these arrows. It's going to get you.
Hmm.
You're going to trigger. Ideally, eventually, so do that at that time. If it's bad enough, leave. You always can leave, right? Because if you're in the presence of a vampire, there's nothing to be done about it. You cannot change it. You cannot reach them. They're not in the room with you. They are a drunk 2-year-old. So it's always legit to leave. It
Right.
doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do. So build a barrier or leave, and then over time figure out how to detach from that energy.
Hmm.
That's a whole other piece of work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like yeah, I remember when this first came up, yeah, I was like, okay, well, I guess I just will stop talking, and it took me a while to realize that it's not necessarily about stopping talking. It's like stopping communicating or trying to communicate energetically in a sense, right? It's like,
That's right.
it's it you're no I think we like, throwing your line in the water to try and connect, like that's not gonna work, and any sort of attempt to connect is just going to
Feed the
backfire.
flames. Yeah,
Yeah,
because they're looking for anything you say. What they're doing with that is they're taking that and they're turning it around, trying to find out how they can use that to throw a bomb back at you.
yeah,
That's the whole purpose, is to go, how do I make that? If I haven't quite connected to feed, how can I use this to feed? How can I use this to feed? They're not, no part of them in that state is trying to figure anything out or connect with you.
yeah.
And that can be helpful too, to think, okay, when I am in that energy state, when I'm triggered and my vampire's up and I'm in fight mode or flight mode, no,
Hmm.
no one can say anything that's going to change that for me. I have to calm down. It has to be an internal shift.
Yeah, one thing that again you helped me with over the years is the upfront qualification that, listen, I just need to vent, right?
Oh yeah.
So that actually has helped me in the past, where I'm like, man, I don't need you to help me solve this. I don't think there's a resolution to it. I'm not trying to fix this thing, but I need to say this. Like, Jen's always been really good at that, where I'm like just venting about something. In my view, I'm venting, and then she's clearly trying to like help me solve it. And I'm like, oh no, no, I don't
Yeah, I
need
don't, yeah, that's
a
not this.
solution. I'm just venting. And so I've used that in the past with like friends or whoever, just to set the stage of like what I'm saying right now is just to get it out. You don't necessarily like be my soundboard, please. Be my
Yeah,
soundboard, or pretend like you're being my soundboard at least, and just let me fire this off so I can get it out.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's
That
maybe
came
a
from that came from work, where people would come into my office and they'd say, I need to talk to you. And you feel the animation. And I would
Mhm.
say, okay, here are your choices. If this is a vent, if you want me to vent or you want to vent, I will listen. It will go in one ear and out the other ear. Nothing you say will be held against you or remembered after this meeting. That's fine. If you want me to do something about this, if you want me to hear this and actually respond, then the rules of the workplace apply. And
Mhm.
don't say anything that you're going to regret later.
Yeah.
Right. And so they go, oh, I just wanted to vent. Okay. Fill your
Yeah.
boots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
yeah. Because I don't know how else you get rid of it. I still have to vent sometimes for months
Yeah.
before I can get rid of something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually think that's helpful, because if, going back to my example, the, political example where so and so was clearly just wanting to vent about their rage about this thing, but they kept trying to get me to hear them and understand them and agree with them. Whereas I think a
Right.
healthier framing,
Right.
if they went into
Right.
it and were like, oh, I'm literally clearly bothered about this. I
Yeah.
know this person, so and so, probably doesn't feel the same way. If I can set the stage, set the context, and position this as event, that's like it's almost better, because you're throwing the energy out there, and instead of it coming back to you, it's just missing that person and just going past them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
It's
kind of a
two different,
win-win.
your intentions are different. It's two different things, right?
Yeah.
When that person was approaching you with politics, they wanted to vampire with you.
Right.
They wanted to feed. When I say I want to vent or someone says they want to vent, that just means I have this inside me. Someone puked on me or a situation or
Yes.
whatever, but I have these roiling this nonsense in me.
Yeah.
I need to get it out. And so the difference is, I'm not asking, if I'm venting at you, I'm not asking you to get down on the dirt with me. I'm not asking you to say, yeah, you're right. I'm asking you to witness,
Yeah. Not receive.
not receive. I'm not giving it to you. I'm asking you to witness my pain.
Yeah.
And that's significantly different. Can I just say too,
Yeah.
I have to do a confession,
Yeah.
because like the monitoring goes on all the time. And when you said, I remember you telling me about venting, and that gave me the little happy bubble because I said something clever. And
Nice.
then I actually waited to get a chance to say it came from when I was at work and I did this, because that was a piece of work that I did a bunch of years ago that I'm kind of proud of,
That
right? It
that
was
is a
something that I learned. And so that is exactly what I was describing at that meeting. I've just done
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, not to play into that, not like genuine, this is a genuine compliment again, is that when you said that about that's you set the stage when you see a disgruntled person come in.
Right, right.
I was thinking, man, that'd be awesome if that's a great way to
Yeah.
handle it. And B, that would be great to have that option. Like if I walked in fired up to a boss and they kind of set the stage and gave me the fork in the road. And I was like, I feel like that'd be super helpful in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So yeah, kudos to you. You're the best. You're the greatest. You're the best person in the world. You're better than everybody. Yeah,
No, I don't want to
exactly.
be better than everybody. I just want to be
Yeah.
unique like everybody else.
You're unique. You're the most unique. You're the
I'm a,
uniquest. Yeah.
I was just thinking I should probably say that because I'm thinking if someone is watching, like, so I have tried to write this stuff in a book 16 times. It hasn't worked, but you have read my attempts.
Yes.
And one of the pieces of feedback that you gave me that just landed, it was just perfect, was you said, I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. And then when you started talking about this, I'm out. Like it
Hmm.
feels like something else was going on. Those were exactly the spots where I lost the flow and I dropped into vampires being there, energy being there around. I had energy around that. I had, someone will think this and this other voice will do this. So I'm going to write it this way. But it wasn't just coming out of me. It
Hmm.
was filtered. And you went, this doesn't ring true. And
Yeah.
so I was thinking, so one of the things that I think if we're going to have these conversations, I'm going to say when I notice that I have dropped out and then come back in, because someone watching might go, that
Mm.
was that felt a bit off. So validating that if you felt like that was off, yep, you were right. I was off.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good to know.
It was the switch in the book piece. It was the switch from I felt like you were talking to me or with me to then talking at me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And when I went to those spots, I went, yeah, that was I was struggling with this. And then again, it's 2 years or 5 years later, and I kind of go, oh, and it was because, I mean, a lot of times it was because I could hear the critics in my life saying, "Oh, that's airy fairy," or oh, that doesn't make sense, or whatever. And so it was that stuff. And so then I started trying to justify myself instead of just
Mm.
owning my truth for me.
Right. One thing I've starting to think about internal critics, like I imagine a lot of people do this. I do this all the time where I think like the people I admire most and the people I want approval from the most, I imagine what they would think of what I'm doing or what I
Yeah,
did and how they wouldn't accept me based on if they knew this thing, whatever.
yeah,
And that I forget where I heard it or read it, but it was basically making the point that those internal critics are basically your own ego and or energy vampires disguising
yeah.
themselves to get better exposure. So it's like to me it's like
They're not,
the
sorry, carry on.
the way I see those situations sometimes is when I notice when I'm picturing so and so, oh man, that person wouldn't think this is cool or approve of this or whatever. It's almost like I do like a little whatever, like a shake or something, and it's like, oh, it's not that person thinking that. Like
Right.
that's my internal critic or my protector or whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
baiting me into listening to it by projecting somebody else's
Yeah, see,
viewpoint. You know what I mean?
yeah, I do.
Uh,
I was with you all the way to the baiting
yeah.
part because I think it was your inner critic trying to protect you. I think all of these vampires are just trying to protect us. I don't think they're baiting or vying for more airtime. I think it's just that inner critic was developed, all of ours, but you and I have talked about yours quite a bit, all evolved in childhood because you were hurt in certain ways. And so we all develop these voices that go, don't, whatever it is from our own childhood, don't put that dress on. That looks stupid on your body type for girls. Or, I mean, I can't think of any of mine right now. Oh, sure, I can. You're talking too much.
Right.
And so that was huge. Oh, there's Chatty Cathy. You're talking too much. You take up too much space. You're like that. So I have an inner critic that drops in especially if I've just said something that feels good, like I've just said a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to say. In comes the voice saying, you weren't monitoring. You're probably in trouble. You've probably said too much. The other person's probably thinking that will she ever shut up? right? And I feel compelled to say, I'm sorry, was that too much? Have I been talking too long? Right? That's an energy vampire.
Mm-hmm.
This one's going blah, blah, blah. So now I'm saying to you, can you fix it for me, please? Can you please assure me that I'm not too much?
Yeah, it's like vulnerability hangover, right? It's like
Yep.
you've I felt that last weekend actually, and I woke up on Sunday. And funny enough, because I was hanging out with somebody and Jen was there, and I disclosed a lot of good and bad, and this person's very trusting and very open and honest, like great high integrity person. So I unleashed a lot of stuff, and I woke up the next day feeling like, oh man,
Yeah.
damn it. Like, why
What
did
do
I
I
do
do
that
now that,
again?
yeah.
And then shortly after I had that feeling, I was like, okay, vulnerability hangover is what it is. This always happens. And then he actually went out of his way, because Jen's friend went out of his way to text Jen and be like, wow, that was awesome. Like, I really, like, he went out of his way
Oh, isn't that
to be like,
nice?
man, the vulnerability was so awesome to hear, and went out of his way to basically call out that how much he appreciated it, which was cool and validating.
Very validating.
Yeah. And so that was cool. And the other thing I was going to say was, oh yeah, going quickly back to the baiting thing. So maybe
Yeah.
baiting is the wrong word. I get what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
they're there for good intention. They have
Yes.
the only thing they care about, these vampires, is like protecting you. You are their number one goal to serve, right? So maybe a better way to put it is that they go to great lengths to protect you, right? And so that
Yes. Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
different
For you to hear them. Yes. Yes. The more that you don't hear them, or yeah, you're right.
right.
They will keep going
Right. And
until you do.
so sometimes the critic, it's harder for me to spot the energy vampire when it's actually taking shape of a critic, or of a somebody I admire
Yes. Yeah.
having that
Yeah.
view of me. And so it's
Yeah.
just harder. It's harder to spot that I've noticed. And so untangling that and recognizing, for me at least, that, oh, this is just a different shape of this thing
Right.
of the energy.
Right. Right.
It gives me
Because it
it's
gets sorry, it gets
yeah,
confused with I don't want to be the kind of person that just walks through the world and never audits themselves.
right.
Whatever I'm doing is exactly right. I mean, I've what popped into my mind is I don't want to be the kind of person that walk. Okay, so I get into an elevator at the hotel that I was at, and there's a fellow that gets in front of me. I can't remember what it was, or something that kind of triggered me to, okay, you're an asshole when he got in. And then he gets out and like pushes forward to get out first and goes to the front desk and checks out. And I'm on the elevator first and I'm standing behind him at the checkout and I'm thinking, at no point did it occur to you. Oh, and then he was rude to the
Mm,
clerk and it was stupid.
yeah.
But I'm thinking, at no point did it occur to you that I was also there at the same time, or that I was also in the elevator, that perhaps we ought to negotiate who was going to go to the front desk first.
Hmm.
It was just, here I
Hmm.
am, right?
Hmm.
I don't know what the point of that was. Oh, I don't want to be the kind of person that walks through the world not
Right.
ever auditing
Right.
what I'm doing. I want to be aware of who I am in the world and where and how I am. Like, I want to know if I'm talking too much.
Right. So it's like you're always it's hard to be both open-minded and not get pulled into rabbit holes.
Yeah, and not get not so those critics are particular critics of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.